Saunders.
And thank you, Cabinet Secretary, for your statement today. The capital projects that are undertaken by RMAs are intended to deliver the aims of the National Strategy for Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management in Wales and the Programme for Government Commitments. However, we all know here, we've all been witness in recent years that Wales has suffered devastating impacts from flooding, such as the impacts to homes, rail infrastructure and businesses. We saw what happened in Rhondda and Taff following Storm Dennis, with more recent examples coming from Storms Bert and Dara, which followed each other almost simultaneously. Storm Bert brought a rainfall which was between 50 and 100% of the total average expected in just the month of November. And as a result, some rivers reached their highest levels ever recorded. More than 700 properties were flooded during Bert, and around 95,000 houses were left without power during Storm Dara. And the Storm Dara, that was quite frightening, really, when speaking with the Meteorological Office and the grid, the national grid, about how how that storm changed from being one of where they were expecting a lot of rain to the massive and huge winds and turbulence that we had. Llandudno Pier in Aberconwy suffered severe damage. Several kiosks were ripped from their foundations, causing £250,000 worth of damage. Now, Natural Resources Wales are reporting that 272,817 properties are now at risk of flooding in Wales, and that's 1 in 7. So that's actually seen an increase of 132,817 properties will be at risk in 20 years. Now, we know from research undertaken that these flood incident levels and storms will increase and more frequently. Now, you sort of marvelled earlier about the NRW and the money you've put into that, about flood incident alerts, but there have been concerns as well, Cabinet Secretary, when we've been taking evidence on these in our committee, that it was Storm Dara that was issued as an amber, when in real terms it should have actually have been as a red. So we really do need to be sure when these alerts are going out that they are accurate and they don't allow any complacency in the system. Now, with extreme weather events set to become more frequent and the flooding is set to increase along the line, throwing money at NRW is not necessarily the answer. So we know, don't we, that there were over 70 members of staff needed just to deal with our flooding responsibilities going forward. How have what are the numbers now? How is the recruiting of people to work in that area taking place? I know that my colleague Carolyn has often mentioned this about riparian owners and ordinary watercourses across Wales. Sometimes these riparian owners do not know their own responsibilities. So how can you bring this more to the fore? Will you also clarify what enforcement can be taken against riparian landowners that do not undertake any responsibility? Can the Cabinet Secretary clarify who will take responsibility where there is no identified landowner? And finally, in Climate Change Committee, we've recently considered the problems caused by the lack of one register of vulnerable people or people in priority need. During the recent water outage that my colleague Darren Miller and I experienced, it turned out to be a gold command, but all the different responders and emergency services were using different lists. Dŵr Cymru themselves had 3,500 on their list. At the end of the few days of the crisis, it was up to 7,500, which tells me those figures were inaccurate, at the start. So how can we make sure we've got one all-encompassing register? And I know there are GDPR issues, but in moments of crisis, that has to be the priority, that those people who are classed as vulnerable, those people classed as priority need, get the help they need. And also, finally, can we, as members of this elected institution, be advised when a crisis incident occurs, and it's a gold or a bronze or a silver command? Elected county councillors get to know, but we don't. And we are on the front line when these incidents occur. Diolch.